Despite the artistic pretensions, sophistication, and many accomplishments of humankind, we owe our existence to a 6-inch layer of soil and to the fact that it rains. Farmers have always had an immediate grasp of this truth. All their work and their hopes are dependent upon the health of this thin layer of soil, as well as clean and adequate supplies of water. Hello, I'm Lyle Van Cleef, the Member of Parliament for Prince Edward Hastings and the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food for Canada. For 25 years of my life, my wife and family and I operated a mixed, diversified farming operation in the province of Ontario. In my role now as the Minister of Agriculture, I have the opportunity to take the views of the primary producers and the complete agri-food industry to the federal government. Our family farm is in the Bay of Quinte watershed. At 18,000 square kilometers, it is the largest drainage basin in southern Ontario. Regrettably, over 200 years of human activity, including agriculture, have polluted the surface waters of the Bay of Quinte and its tributary creeks and rivers. Our farming community is recognizing that it plays an important part in the good management of the water resources. Sustainable water management is central to the concerns of many in agriculture today. Indeed, we are taking a step in the right direction.
The Bay has been identified as one of 43 highly polluted areas of concern on the Great Lakes. To deal with this pollution, a Remedial Action Plan, or RAP, has identified 4 problems in the Bay: nutrient enrichment and consequent algae blooms, bacteriological contamination, toxic contamination, and wetland habitat loss. The Bay of Quinte RAP's Time to Act Stage 2 report defined the water quality problems in the Bay and recommended solutions affecting several sectors of the Bay of Quinte community, including agriculture. As a major component of our local economy, agriculture's role in good management of our limited water resources is critical. There are 2 main environmental challenges affecting water quality in agriculture. One is land management, the farmer's use of soils, fertilizers, and pesticides. The other is waste management, how manure is handled and stored, and how livestock is controlled. Quinte farmers have responded to these environmental challenges in several ways.
In the early 90s, a number of farm groups and agricultural industry groups recognized the need to take a proactive approach to managing environmental risk on Ontario farms. With funding from the federal government and technical help from various Ontario government ministries, the Environmental Farm Plan program was developed. This is a workbook that a farmer uses to evaluate all the environmental risks on the farm, from manure storage to pesticide storage, land management, and so on. On this farm, I have a problem with water running through a livestock yard and also taking nutrients from my manure pile, which are then carried to a pond on the farm. In order to correct that, I'll build a soil berm upslope and put gutters on the barn roof to reduce the amount of water going through, and ultimately I'd like to pave that yard so I can scrape it off. My completed farm plan, together with the actions I propose to correct this problem, will be taken to a peer review committee, where it will be evaluated by a group of local farmers. This will be done anonymously. They won't know who I am. And if the plan is approved, I will be eligible for a $1,500 grant to deal with the problems I've identified.
The Rural Water Quality Program is part of the implementation of the Bay of Quinte Remedial Action Plan. The bay itself is a small body of water relative to the large inland mass which drains to it, so a number of the problems in the bay are actually sourced deep inland, and the Rural Water Quality Program helps rural landowners to deal with issues of water quality and quantity as it flows across or adjacent to their properties. For instance, in the agricultural community, issues such as manure storage and handling, milkhouse wash water waste storage and handling, cattle access to streams, tillage practices. We promote no-till and reduced tillage practices to keep soils out of the water, pesticides and herbicides out of the water courses that lead to the Bay of Quinte. Over the last 4 years, over 343 landowners, mostly farmers, have dealt with the Rural Water Quality Program. We've helped to provide them with technical advice and a grant incentive to realize some of their aspirations for environmental stewardship.
The farmer can protect water quality by adopting a best management practice, a practical, affordable approach to conserving a farm's soil and water without sacrificing productivity. Many farmers in the Bay of Quinte watershed have adopted the best management practices suited to their particular situation and problems. Cropping and tillage management is one of several categories of best management practices that can be found at Kaiser Lake Farms, a large egg and poultry operation located on the shore of Hay Bay, an arm of the Bay of Quinte.
We're located, as you can see, close to the water. In fact, we've got water most of the way around us. We're on the end of a point. And we also, because we're on the water and because it's inland water, we also have a lot of people who like to occupy that waterfront. And we have nothing but non-farming neighbors. And so we have to do things to minimize the impact that we have on the water and on our neighbors. We've moved fairly far in the move away from conventional tillage. We no longer moldboard plow at all. It turns the soil upside down and buries all the residue. Conservation tillage is any tillage system that leaves more than 30% of the previous crop's residue on the surface after planting. So your corn stalks or wheat stubble, whatever, there'll be 30% of the previous crop's residue will be on the surface after you plant the next crop. When rain impacts with the soil, it will put some of those soil particles in suspension in the water. And if there's a heavy enough rain, that water will begin to move, and it's got soil in suspension, and it will carry that soil to wherever it's going, in our case to Hay Bay. When you move soil, the primary pollutant that you move is phosphorus. The primary thing residue on the surface does is it reduces the impact of rain with the soil. It also slows down the water because the water has to then go around the residue, and it tends to collect the water, and it doesn't run as readily. Gives it more opportunity to soak in, and so that it reduces the runoff, and that's what we're looking for, reduced runoff. So we've slowly evolved the systems that we use now. We found it much cheaper, much easier, takes a lot less manpower, takes a lot less equipment. You can get by with a lot of older tractors. You don't have to buy new tractors every 5 years because you wear the darn things out doing hard work. And so we just find it a lot cheaper, and it's a lot easier to manage. You sleep a lot better at night. But it has to be economic, and it has been economically an economic improvement for us to go from conventional to conservation. If we can manage the systems to make an economic improvement, we'll go further.